Hello, Kirsty, and hello everybody out there. It's lovely to not see you, but know that you're out there and you're with us. We're really excited about talking to you today. As Kirsty said, my name's Helena, and you're going to hear from myself and Ruth. What we're going to do today is tell you a story, and I thought that this kind of slide was a good point to start because while this is a story that Ruth and I will share with you today, you all have been very, very much part and at the heart of this story. Our desire to collaborate and support you in particular has been a driving force in the development of Daydream Believers. In 2018, we began a pilot working with CDT and art and design teachers across Edinburgh and Lothians. At the start of the pilot, we asked our teachers what their why was. Why were they working with us? Why were they gathering with us? Why were they sitting around the table? And these were two of the statements that stood out for me. In a sense, they became our mission statement: to resource and support our teachers with real-world resources that could withstand ever-changing goalposts. To do this, we needed to come together as a community, for businesses and colleges to stop seeing themselves as competitors, but rather as collaborators, to openly share resources, insights and partners. And in doing so, we believe we have created a learning ecosystem capable of adapting, developing and driving workplace innovation. I know that this is a subject very much dear to our hearts. And I know this for a fact because when I forwarded Ruth the invite to the event today, she said to me, do you know, we should really go to that. At which point I just laughed back at her and said, we should, because we're actually delivering it. So in August 2019, Daydream Believers went online. We worked with lecturers from ECA, GSA, Duncan of Jordanston and Grays, and we moved from being competitors to friends. We asked businesses to create 50-minute resources that could be used for free in broad general education and beyond. Who are Daydream Believers? We are a collective, a group of people who really rolled up their sleeves, got tired of talking. We're dreamers and doers. Our mission statement, as you see there, is to put creativity at the heart of education. When you log on to Daydream Believers, you will see, as it exists, the website exists at the minute, there are currently over 80 hours of lessons. What you can do is just click on a lesson, download the resource and bring that directly into your classroom. I'm going to pass over to you now, to Ruth, to tell you what the next part of the story is. So from 2019, we have created the resources. We were aware that they were sitting out there with the optional extra, and we wanted to make this a way, or find a way to actually embed this directly into the curriculum. So over to you, Ruth.
Thanks, Helena. So from being brought round the table, the Daydream table, and I only really went for the biscuits, Helena, let's be honest. There were always good biscuits. I miss those days of actually being round a physical table and having the good biscuits. But at one point round that table, when it was Glasgow School of Art, Edinburgh College of Art, Duncan of Jordanston and Grays, round the table with people we would never have spoken to each other before. And it doesn't take long for Helena to break down a room and hug everybody and make you feel as if you're all in the same team. And in reality, we are all in the same team, and we were all really excited about the prospect of working together to change how creativity was embedded in schools. And we came to discover that to embed creativity more effectively in schools, we needed to give credit to those that were undertaking some of the projects that live within Daydream. So we set about trying to create a qualification. So what if there was a higher and a Nat 5 in daydreaming? And that's kind of, we set about that goal and started to draft a qualification initially with the SQA, but latterly we moved beyond that conversation because the SQA decided that it just wasn't in the business case for them to get involved. So we managed to find another way to do this. So what we've done is with Edinburgh College managed to create a qualification that's underpinned by a design process of these kind of 5 elements. So really simplified design process, nothing new, and you'll all have seen something similar out of IDEO or Design Council, something similar like this before. But basically those 5 stages map onto learning outcomes for a qualification. Next one, please, Helena. So basically what we've created is a qualification that will be moderated by Edinburgh College and administrated by Edinburgh College and is credit rated by Edinburgh Napier University. And will be available at level 5 and level 6. I don't know if we've got both lots of learning outcomes.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the level 5, but you can see they're really simple and really open. And the idea is that you can use the Daydream resources to address these learning outcomes. You don't have to use the resources, but we're building them so that you can use them at level 5 and level 6. And you can see that the learning outcomes map really, really easily onto those elements of the design process. Next one, please, Helena. So, and again, you can see the level 6, very similar, and just looking for a bit more depth at level 6. And we can talk to you a little bit about how this is going to be implemented. So the next one, please, Helena. So an example of what an academic year might look like. Don't worry too much about the dates. I know that's another one of those shifting goalposts at the moment. But you're thinking about an academic year that usually would start in June, this year might obviously start in August. But we're going to be ready whenever the academic year changes. We'll be ready with this stuff. So the idea is that we are starting a pilot of the creative thinking qualifications, both at level 5 and level 6. And we've already got 10 schools signed up, ready to participate in that pilot, and delighted if any of you out there feel as if you might be able to join. I know that it's getting close to students making their, pupils making their choices, but if we can support any of that, then we'd be delighted to be able to do that. So at the moment we're kind of in that planning phase, we're getting everything in order, but the idea is that we take a team of teachers along with us along this pilot, and we're in the fail and fix phase of developing the qualifications for the iteration phase. There's going to be 4 projects across the year, and this is the pilot year. The idea is that there's eventually going to be lots of flexibility, and we can talk a little bit about that going forward. But we're saying let's all together do all these 4 projects in the first year, and we'll probably do them in the same order as well if we can. There's obviously flexibility in how long it takes your individual class. I know that some classes might have to run level 5 and level 6 together, and we're designing resources to be able to do that. We've got systems of formative assessment that run throughout the project, and it's all centre assessed. So the teachers would be asked to assess the projects, and at the end of each project you would give that project a mark for that student. So the assessment and the classwork is all rolled into one thing. So we're not asking for anything different apart from do a project. This is the mark that you've got for the project, and that's the mark that will join together to make your final mark for the year. So that would be marked at the end of each project, and the moderation is going to be happening with Edinburgh College. And in fact, Edinburgh College will moderate as we go along in the first year, so that we're creating a community which is helping each other to create that moderation system. Next one, please, Helena. So as I said, we're going to have quite a lot of flexibility, and we're working on future playlists, but the first playlist that we're going to offer is those 4 projects that we showed on the previous slide. So Van of Dreams, Circular Fashion, Campaign for Kindness, and Thoughts Become Things. And those 2 projects, 3 and 4, are projects that exist within the resource bank at Daydream already. So you can go on right now and have a look at those projects. We're going to get a bit more depth added to those to make sure that we can cover the learning outcomes at level 5 and 6, and we're working with the agencies involved in those projects. And the Van of Dreams and the Circular Fashion are new ones that we're working on. Van of Dreams is a project that we worked on through the pandemic as a collaboration between Edinburgh Napier, Edinburgh College of Art, and 2 schools, so Balerno and Drummond. And we're using that as a model for this project for the qualification. And the Circular Fashion lunch in there as well. So you can see this is playlist number 1. There will be 2, 3 and many, many more as long as we can continue to find the resources to do this. But it will give an ability for this to be mapped into very many different subject areas in schools. So you could run it in art and design, craft and design, but potentially in modern studies, in computing, in technology classes, into history and modern languages classes, or across the school as New Battle is planning to do, and embed it across the curriculum. Next one, please, Elaine. So this is again a zoom in on that project, and you can see that for every project that we have within that pilot, then you would get everything that you need to run that project. You would get an introduction to, so this is the circular fashion project, and you would get an introduction to the partner, the industry partner, which might be video and context, and Helena's going to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. There'll be warm-ups which introduce specific skills, and a lot of that stuff already exists within the Daydream Believers resource bank, but there's more coming in all the time. So the specific partners are giving us their techniques that they use really in industry when taking on these challenges. So we provide the skill base, we provide the context, and we provide the content of the challenge. And the context has always been really important. Why are we doing this project? What's the point? Am I going to get a job at the end of it? Yes. All those answers are yes, and we want to make sure that we make that clear within the resources. Next one, please, Helena.
So yeah, I'm going to just talk now about, show you an example of the resources. As Ruth said, we've gone to our businesses and we said, so how do you warm up? How do you come up with ideas? What are some of the techniques? And the warm-up exercises will be things that you could just plug and play into your classes. So there'll be 50 minutes. What if it didn't? Your ideas are on fire. And it's that moment as a lecturer when you think, oh my God, it's Monday morning, 9 o'clock. How am I going to get the people excited? And that's where we think things like this might work and give you the opportunity to just place them wherever you want within the challenge. We're delighted that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation are going to work with us and are working with us at the minute to develop up this really exciting challenge-based project. What does it look like? Basically, they're a wonderful organization to work with because they just say, take it, use it, we want to help you. And they've got so many resources. And I thought what I would do is just show you an example of one of the videos that they've given us that we're embedding at the minute into this particular lesson. So hopefully, if all goes well, Ruth, I'll be looking at you. You should be able to actually hear this if all goes to plan. Can you hear it?
When it comes to fashion, if it looks great, it should be worn. If it's by our skin, it should be safe. And when it's worn out, it shouldn't be wasted. Sounds like common sense, right? But that's not how it is today. 1 truckload of clothing is being burned or landfilled every second. Mountains of clothes are stuck in warehouses and at the bottom of our wardrobes. And less than 1% of used clothing is turned back into new clothes. Globally, it's costing us billions of dollars every year. This shouldn't be the price of looking and feeling good. People's demands and expectations are changing. It's time the fashion industry changes too. To thrive in the future, we need a fashion industry made up of 3 elements. Business models that keep clothes in use for longer, like sharing, swapping, rental, repair, and resale. Materials that are safe and renewable, so our clothes do not release microfibers that pollute our oceans, and making them does not destroy local ecosystems. Solutions, so used clothes are turned into new, designing and making clothes so the materials can be used again and again and again. It's a new ambition for a fashion industry where clothes never become waste. There's so much that brands can do now, but no organization can shift the system alone. Make Fashion Circular brings together people across the entire industry to develop new solutions, scale the ones that work, and build a fashion industry that's beautiful, inside and out.
So what you see there is an example of the content that we're working on. So as we said, this is in development. We're developing up a new web page that will hold the qualification. And the proposal at the minute is to work with an organization called T-Mill, who do circular economy t-shirts. And as part of the lesson, the students will be able to set up their own web page, create their own t-shirts, and we'll be able to show them examples of how that works. So why is Ellen MacArthur aligned with T-Mill? I'll skip through that, but you'll be able to see examples. This is an example of some of the stuff that other students have done, where they set up a web page making their own t-shirts, circular economy t-shirts with the message around circular economy. We're hoping that in particular with this lesson, place that will be able to bring this to the Creative Bravery Festival, which will be aligned within the COP Festival, our COP event in November. So we've got an eye on a bigger picture of being able to use this. Some of the stuff that comes through from students working on it may feature as part of that. So the other one I wanted to just very quickly show you was the Thoughts Become Things. Again, this is another a lesson. This one you can actually go and see. It will be developed up slightly, but you can actually go and see this. This exists on the webpage at the minute. We're very aware as a 13 and 14 or 15-year-old sitting in a classroom that that point of, you know, what is the point is a really big part of what we're doing. Our young people need to know the context to it. So when you show them cool people, cool places, cool jobs and cool projects, then we think we have their engagement, then we have their excitement. And, you know, in this one that you see with Acrylicized, they show examples of the real world projects that they've worked in. And then what they do is they set a challenge. And on this one, you have all the things you need within this particular package to answer this challenge. It gets our students to think about experiential design. It talks about mood boards. It talks to them about the mood boards that they create and why they did and how a mood board can actually link to a final piece of work. Again, kind of putting context to it. So we've shown you an example of some of the resources will look like. Ruth's going to talk to you a little bit now about the assessment and how that looks.
So round that table with the good biscuits, we always came back to the thought of assessment, and you know, I was at that table with all of these colleagues who I didn't know all that well, and we were kind of batting back and forth. But what about the SQA's assessment form? And this is really that's what breaks down the creativity of the existing qualifications, and how can we assess creativity in a simple way? And I kind of gingerly went into my bag and brought out my rubber stamp, because this is what we use at Napier. This is a system that was developed by myself and a colleague for formative assessment, so that you can see that each of the 5 elements on the stamp there relates to the design process and the learning outcomes. And I used to sit beside my students when I was allowed to, and hopefully will be again soon, and stamp this directly onto sketchbooks and pieces of work as we go through. And it allows me to give them some indication of how they're getting on in a really simple, straightforward way. So research concepts, fail and fix, or development as we would probably call it in CDT, communication or presentation of that idea, and the critical evaluation or the bravery as the kind of star, as the 5th element. And it allows you to have really simple conversations with quite young learners through to quite complex conversations, and even some of the agencies that we work with said, oh, you could use this, you know, for our young people that are working for us, and even to assess the work that we are doing against client briefs. So that's formative assessment, and gives a tool to be used at the teacher's discretion. You know, this whole thing is very much trust the teachers. We've said that from day one, trust the teachers, trust the teachers. Even before we were forced into the hand by the pandemic and we had to trust the teachers, and you all proved that we were right all along, that we should have done. So this is really, it's a tool to make that life easier, and we never ever wanted to do anything that was going to make things more difficult. So I use this and I find it really helps, because the students know where they are. They've got a much clearer picture of what's expected of them, and when you're trying to make them be creative, they need that underpinning, because it really freaks them out when they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and that's a result of pushing them into creative spaces. And I feel the stamp's a real anchor to help that project work to continue. The next one, please, Helena. So you can see here how those projects stacked up. We should change this slide, Helena, to have the right projects on it at some point, but those designing with data, co-donuts, objects of desire are all projects that live within Daydream at the moment, and those will become the 4 that we talked about on the left there for the first year at least. Each of the projects will be assigned an SCQF credit number, adding up to 24, so 24 credits, both at level 5 and 6. And that gives a notional hours, and we know that notional hours is notional because every school is different. But each project, the reality is that most projects cover all learning outcomes, but we would indicate which ones we thought that were particularly covered by a specific project. And eventually you're able to do any 4 projects you like, or actually 3 or 5 projects that you like in a year, depending on your group. Again, trust the teachers. You know your class better than anyone. What's going to interest them? How are they better with one long project or lots of short ones? But as long as you're covering all the learning outcomes, then that's absolutely fine. And you can see that across a range of projects there, that's what you would be able to do. Next one, please, Elena. So summative assessment. We're going to ask the centres to do the assessment. The teachers are going to assess the student work. And again, I had developed a really kind of clunky online Excel spreadsheet that helped me do my summative marking. And we're going to turn that into an app to help that with that summative assessment and really make it super simple. Next one, please, Helena. So you can see here that you would be able to have your 4 projects and the profile of those projects. So I know that it's got 4 SCQF credits, and I'm going to mark that project for my class. I was at a meeting with the app developers this morning, and it's looking great. I'm really excited about it. You'll be able to just go onto a web-based app, create your class in there and say, right, I'm going to mark Go Donuts or Van of Dreams or the Circular Fashion, and I'm going to, this is my class list, and I'll go through and give them a mark. So if you go to the next one, and let's just go on to the next one, it gives a better picture. So this is how the app, it's not exactly how it's going to look, but it's going to be this sort of form. So again, you've got the 5 elements, the 5 learning outcomes, and you can slide up and down in each of the elements for your students. So every student in your class will have a page like this. So I'm marking Jane's work at the moment, and I can say, right, Jane's got an A for research, and I just slide that research bar up to an A and whiz through each of them, and it will in real time work out the numeric and the grading for that numeric. So it'll tell me where the ABC bands are, and it'll tell me, it's feeding in that descriptor of that A for research concepts, etc., from the rubric, which was credit rated by Napier. So you get a description in real time of what a B is, and I find that really helpful when I'm marking, because I can see, is this a B? Right, I think that's my, and I go through and I gut feel it really quickly, and then I can go back and look at the descriptor with the piece of work beside me and say, do you know what, I think that is a B, or the whole thing feels a bit low, and I can lift everything up together, and it's working out my averages as I go as well. So and we're going to be able to weight things. So if a particular project doesn't have a research element, be able to grade that out and weight it between the learning outcomes that you are addressing with that particular project. And the bit at the bottom there will generate a PDF or an output that can be printed out or emailed or sent via Teams to the student, so they get that feedback automatically. So they can see the descriptor of each of the elements of their project, how they've got on for each particular project that they've undertaken over the 4, and you can send that out to your students as feedback, which saves me a huge amount of time. I absolutely love it. Next one, please.
Yeah, so I'm just going to, this is our timeline. So what we are looking for, I started this conversation with tell me a story, make me care, and I hope that out there that the story does make you care. And if you want to be part of our story, part of this stage of the process and co-creators with this qualification, we would love to hear from you. We are keen to look at piloting it. If we have schools who are ready to pilot it in June, we'll do that. If you're ready to pilot in August, we'll work with you. But we would be in a position in the end of April to show you the new web page with the qualification on it, to show you the app and help you fail and fix with that part of it. And we will work with you really, as we started off before, as a collaborative, as a community. You'll know, I'm sure, and maybe have heard about meta skills. This model, this method of looking at challenge-based learning is interesting a lot of people at the minute, and it's at the very heart of meta skills. We know that you, in particular, as a group of people, you've got this. You understand this design process. This design process is in your DNA. In a sense, we're hoping that you become our ambassadors for this, that you become the people who, encourage your colleagues right across the curriculum and support them to take creative thinking and embed it in every school and offer it to every learner. So our call today, our final call, is to help us make it great. If you are interested and you want to find out more, and if there are any questions that we can't answer today, just use this email and get in touch. We'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as possible. And, you know, a final kind of thing I would say is a massive thanks to Education Scotland and to Kirsty in particular, who's been a huge part of the success of the project. Their belief in something that we couldn't describe but knew we wanted to make has been massively encouraging. So that's our story. Kirsty, I don't know what's happening over in it feels like the Eurovision. Can you come in, Brussels? But I don't know what's happening out there. If there's any questions that people have, if we can hopefully answer them for you.